Alright, as you can see in the chart right here, since the 1920s, the incarceration rate for the U.S. has progressively gotten worse. Today I'm going to talk to you about the California's prison crisis. The problem is that the prisons are heavily overpopulated by 200%. And I'm also going to talk to you about the solution on reducing that population by 1/3. These are the sources that I use to help aid my presentation. Alright. This is a picture right here of the San Quentin prison. This is maximum security. Because the prison is so overpopulated, they've resorted to pretty much stuffing inmates in lockers. This is a big problem because it's a violation of the 8th Amendment. And, people are probably asking, I don't know what the 8th Amendment is. Basically, it's the part of the United States Bill of Rights prohibiting the federal government from imposing excessive bail, excessive fines, or cruel and unusual punishment. This picture right here is a prime example of cruel and unusual punishment. These prisoners are left in there 23 hours a day and only get 1 hour for eating and exercise. Also, the problem with the overpopulation in California's prisons is inadequate health care. Because they're so overpopulated, there just isn't enough staff as far as nurses go to properly admit proper medical care to prisoners if they're hurt or to staff. And also another problem with overpopulation in California's prisons is that it's an unsafe work environment. 9 times out of 10, the officers are outnumbered, 100 to 1. If there were to be a riot broke out, there's just no way possible for them to contain the situation. And moving on from the problem, we're going to talk about the solution. The solution that I'm proposing today is the reduction in California's prisons by 1/3 of its population. By doing so, this will allow for better living conditions, a better way of life for the prisoners. It'll also allow for proper health care to be provided and administered. And also, it'll provide a safer work environment for correctional officers. 2 methods of reducing the overpopulation by 1/3 is number 1, getting the Supreme Court involved. Us as natural citizens as we are, we only hold so much power and so much political influence to fix situations such as the overpopulation in California. One representative that we would want to get on board is Chief Justice Anthony Kennedy. He's already quoted once in Color Lines magazine that he acknowledges that the health care provided in California's prisons well undermeets the standards that the state requires. For example, a method of the reduction would be for the Supreme Court to mandate the transfer of prisoners out of the overpopulated prisons into non-populated prisons. This meaning, it could be out of state or in state. And also, second method of reduction of the inmate population by 1/3 would be the prison realignment legislation. Back in the 1920s, when prisons first started getting big, legislation pretty much put into law different rules and how things are supposed to be taken care of, and basically revamping this legislation. For example, reducing sentencing laws. Currently, California is the only state, or is one of 4 states that has a 3 strikes law. Pretty much what that means is that if somebody commits 3 crimes consecutively, they could be nonviolent, or they could they're to be committed life in prison. With abolishing that law, it would reduce the tax budget by 18% by 2014. This is a graph right here of the fiscal realignment if it were to take place. As you can see, the green is going upwards, and then in the future it's going to start going downwards, and that is the projection if we are to realign legislation. And the red, it would be the projection of where it would go if we would not put in the realignment of legislation. Projections for the future if we are not to get this matter taken care of. We're going to have uncontrollable riots. There's not going to be enough manpower to control all that madness. There's going to be more deaths. More people are going to be committing suicide. More people are going to be getting injured because there's just so many people in one location. You know, there's going to be a loss of authority if we don't get this matter taken care of. You know, the tax budget for California is going to keep on getting higher and higher and higher. You know, with implementing different legislation laws and reducing that, you know, there'll be a way to reduce the tax budget. And also, you know, if we don't get this taken care of, there could be a possibility of prisoners escaping prison and breaking out and just roaming the streets of California. If we do get the situation taken care of, and we do implement the methods for reducing the population by 1/3, if we get it implemented by November 2012, we will have the crisis resolved by 2014. Thereby reducing the population of over 200% down to 127.3%. In conclusion, California has by far the worst overpopulation crisis in its prisons. You know, right now currently it is violating the 8th Amendment. It is an unsafe work environment. There's inadequate health care. And the solution would be to reduce it by 1/3. It'll create a better way of living. It will not violate their 8th Amendment. They will receive adequate health care, and it'll be a safer work environment. And for those who don't believe that this is a bad situation, just picture this. Imagine yourself as a resident in California, believing that this isn't a big deal. And let's say your 5-year-old child is out in the street playing, or out in the driveway playing, and all of a sudden she meets a new friend, and he's an ex-convicted felon. How would you feel if your daughter was playing with somebody like that? Thank you.